Hello chess friends and welcome to your Art of Chess channel and welcome to the incredible game that finished a couple of hours ago on chess.com's Title Tuesday. We have here Magnus Carlsen against Daniel Darda in an incredible, really wild tactical game, and be prepared. Here we witness really an epic queen sacrifice by Magnus Carlsen, and it's again not one of those queen sacrifices that end the game immediately. You know, when you sacrifice the queen and then you have a winning sequence, the game is over in 2, 3, 4, 5 moves. No, again it was a beautiful positional queen sacrifice that caused really some damage in this in the middle game stage, but gave also black some chances. So after the queen sacrifice, the game was pretty much equal, so both sides had chances. So it was a beautiful positional sacrifice that spiced up the game and that caused really great attacking opportunities for both sides. So before we start to analyze the game, let's talk about Daniel Darda also a little bit more, because this young fellow also deserves all of our respect. He's only 17 years old, and at the age of 13 he became Belgium's national champion in chess, which is really great result when you think about it harder. He's 17 years old. He has already a great rating. Look at his current ratings, 2610. So he has of course room for improvement, but in the next couple of years we can expect also Daniel Darda to be maybe even a famous player in the chess community. So we'll follow his career for sure. So let's see now the game. Put your seatbelts on. Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces opened with the move e4. Daniel Darda's response was e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. Knight to f6, the Berlin defense, kingside castling, and now we have the so-called Rio Gambit Accepted. So black grabs the pawn, but of course risks some tactics on the e-file, so that's why Magnus uses this moment. Plays now rook to e1. Now you have to step back, knight to d6, and after move knight to e5, you don't have time to pick up, of course, the bishop on b5, because knight to c6 is winning the game on spot here for white. So that's why you have to lock the e-file, like Daniel Darda did with bishop to e7. Now Magnus retreats to f1, knight to e5, rook to e5, and after kingside castling, we have now this position that has been played many times in chess history. And the good part, I think, of this opening line for black is that the pawn structure is symmetrical, like in the Russian game in the Petrov defense. It's similar, I think. Look at this. We have 4 pawns on the queen side. We have 3 pawns on the king side. The pawn structure is symmetrical. It's not asymmetrical. When there is an asymmetrical pawn structure, then of course you can create some dynamics in the center of the board. Now when the pawn structure is symmetrical, no tensions are possible immediately. So you can play, I think, a solid game. What I don't like about this line for black is that the bishop on c8 is a little bit stuck. You have to move the knight, then you have to play the d pawn, then you have to bring the bishop out, so you lose time in order to develop your minor piece in the game. So that's, I think, the only downside about this line. So in the game, d4 was played by Magnus. We have now bishop to f6 by Daniel Darda. Magnus uses now also tempo to get the rook back, rook to e1. We have now rook to e8. Magnus simply develops the piece with bishop to f4. It attacks also the knight on d6, because now after rook to e1, queen to e1, you could maybe pick up here the pawn on d4, but this would be of course risky, because after bishop to d6, c takes d6, c3, bishop to f6. Okay, you're up a pawn and you have the bishop pair, but look, as I said, the bishop on c8 is still paralyzed by its own pawns. I think in the next couple of moves we can expect ideas of knight to a3, knight to c4, rook to d1, hitting the pawn on d6. So in my opinion, I would not recommend you here to play this. After move queen to e1 that Magnus Carlsen played, Daniel Darda first retreated here to with the knight on e8, got out of the attack of the bishop. Now after move c3, he plays now the move d5, and he has now, as I said, simply a symmetrical position, and in my opinion this is a solid game for both sides. So now Magnus of course continues development with knight to d2. We have now c6, also fixing the structure on this on the queen side, and now an interesting choice by Magnus, a4. a4 is the only attacking chance that I see in white's position. We're trying a5, a6, maybe splitting the pawn chain. When maybe b takes a6 happens, then we have the c5 weakness, the c6 as a pawn weakness. So in my opinion, this is the way to go. Well, you have to produce some kind of an idea, produce some kind of a winning chance. So with the move a4, Magnus is announcing here a queenside attack. So bishop to f5 was played by Daniel Darda. We have now the move a5, trying to get the move a6. Now after move knight to d6 that black played, he's trying also to control the c4 square, also the e4 square. Magnus continues with the normal idea, knight to b3. He's trying to get the knight on c5, and then afterwards maybe trying some ideas of bishop to d6, and then maybe if the queen picks up maybe the bishop on d6, then of course to pick up also the weak pawn on b7. And there is only one game in the database with this idea. It was a game played by Sergei Karyakin against Anish Giri. In their game, Sergei Karyakin played rook to c8, but here Daniel Darda played a different idea. He played queen to f8, and he is trying now to attack the queen on the e file, so he's trying to get the move rook to e8. And many of us would be probably annoyed by this possibility. You would say, okay, why do I lose my battle on the e file? Why did I allow this? Now the rook is coming on the e file. But Magnus Carlsen, what I really liked about this game, he continued with his basic plan. He started an attack, and now he is continuing with his plan. So he never said, I made a mistake with this plan. No, I'm continuing with my plan. Show me what's your plan. Show me what you got. And here, Daniel Darda, of course, plays now the move rook to e8. And from this point on, the game is really, really spectacular. Many of us would play queen to d1, queen to d2, would retreat with the queen. But Magnus Carlsen is saying here, let me see what are your tactical skills here, dude, because here he played an amazing bishop to d6, sacrificing the queen. Of course, you cannot play queen to d6 because the rook is hanging here on the e file. But after move bishop to d6, of course, Daniel Darda has now to accept the challenge. We have rook to e1. Magnus played rook to e1. The problem for black is here that you cannot here pick up the bishop on d6 because rook to e8 is going to happen. You have to cover. After queen to, rook takes f8, king to f8, you will lose the pawn on b7. So it's simply not possible to play the game like this. So after move rook to e1 that Magnus Carlsen play, you cannot also play queen to d8 because knight to b7 is going to happen. The queen is attacked, you lose another tempo. So it's simply worthless, this move, queen to d8. So after move rook to e1, here Daniel Darda played queen to c8. But that was really beautiful calculation by Magnus. Magnus has now again this resource. Knight to b7 is again a possibility because you cannot of course play queen to b7. Rook to e8 is immediately a checkmate. So after move knight to b7, let's stop and evaluate now the position because now the tactical sequence is basically over. Magnus has now the rook, a minor piece, and a pawn for the queen, which is in my opinion a great compensation. But I think that's not the only compensation that he has. He has now also the possibility of a pawn majority attack here with the 4 versus 3 situation on the queen side. He has also the e file, which is also I think a compensation. So when it comes to just directly counting material, maybe this would be equal, but I still kind of like more now white's position. Although the engine gives here equal chances, but you have to be now really a tactical beast in order to defend this position against Magnus Carlsen. I think you have to play now the best stockfish lines, and this is of course blitz chess. I don't think that you can find really the best solutions immediately. So in the game, h5 was played by Daniel Darda. He creates at least some breathing spaces because the back rank checkmate problem is always present in the game, so that's why h5 really makes sense. Magnus continues with his attack, a6, fixing also the knight on b7, which is really annoying to handle this kind of a knight on the 7th rank. In the game, we have now h4 by Daniel Darda. He's trying h3, so you see he's trying also counterplay, which is I think a great choice. But again, Magnus is saying, I'm the boss of this position. First, you protect your weaknesses, then I'll maybe consider protecting my weaknesses, because now again Daniel Darda was forced to play a passive move, which was really incredible by Magnus. He kept the tension in the game. He paralyzed a little bit Black's pieces. Black's pieces always were on the defensive side. Now from move queen to b8, Magnus is saying, now I will play h3, preventing your move h3. And now comes already the tricky part here. Daniel Darda already messed up the game with the move bishop to e4. Magnus Carlsen could have punished this move immediately with some ideas of knight to d6, which Magnus Carlsen didn't play, but it doesn't matter. He didn't mess up the position. But actually look at this, how already beautiful this position can be for white. After move knight to d6, you're trying maybe here something like queen to b2. look at this, but this is not possible. We simply pick up this one. You can even play something like, I don't know, bishop to e7, but now after bishop to c5, we are having a beautiful passer. You try maybe here something like bishop to d6, bishop to d6, maybe queen to c3, trying to attack the rook, but white doesn't have to react. We just pass through. We just continue to push our passer here on the a file. You have to step back, and now after bishop to c5, in my opinion, this is game over. We'll play f3, we'll then play rook to e8, then of course a8 is an opportunity. So here the engine is also saying the game is over here for black. Really stunning stuff. So after move knight to d6, this will be already game over almost for Daniel Darda. So he messed up the game already with the move bishop to e4, but Magnus didn't punish that. He was probably annoyed by the possibility of this b file problems around the square b2. He played this solid move b4 and he didn't ruin his position. Still, white should be slightly better, but as I said, here white had already the chance to seal the fate immediately. So really stunning queen sacrifice, as I said, by Magnus Carlsen. So you see how hard it is to defend this position from black's perspective. So in the game bishop to g5, knight to d6, Magnus Carlsen played now. Probably he was annoyed, as I said, because of these problems around the square b2. Now after move knight to d6, we have bishop to d2, attacking now the pawn on c3. Magnus plays rook to e2, bishop to c3, and now knight to e4. Knight to e4, again, maybe not the optimal move here by Magnus Carlsen. Again, he didn't ruin his position that he could lose maybe the game, but actually the more aggressive method would be probably move f3, because you cannot of course step back with the bishop, because you get rook to e8 and you get the fork and the game would be over. So black would be pretty much forced to play moves like f5. But I'm sure that Magnus Carlsen saw even this move, but probably he didn't want to risk anything, because even if you take f takes e4, maybe f takes e4, probably he was annoyed by the possibility of this supported pass pawn, and the rook would be maybe passive against this annoying pawn to handle. Maybe then the queen could come into the game, and then maybe black could start to push the pawn. So I'm sure that Magnus Carlsen would see this move in the longer game, and he probably saw it even in this blitz game. But as I said, he was probably annoyed by this kind of a position. So after move knight to e4 that Magnus Carlsen played, we had d takes e4, rook to e4. Now Daniel Darda picked up the bishop, the pawn on b4 with the bishop here. We have now rook to e7. Magnus is continuing the pressure around the square a7. We have bishop to c5, d takes c5, and after move g5, we have now rook to b7. So look at this position now. We have now the bishop and the rook against the queen, but the cool part is I think that everything is glued together. Everything is compact. So again, the engine gives here equal chances, because black cannot include more attackers into the game. Black queen is always stuck to the defense of the pawn on a7, and also the king cannot be included into the attack. You could maybe start to push some pawns, but this is not working. So in my opinion, black can never win this game. I think protect now this position at any cost. I would really love to play more the game here, always with the white pieces, because I think only white has here winning chances. Although, as I said, the engine gives here equal chances, but black is simply on the defensive side. So now after rook to b7, of course, queen to e5 was played. Magnus picks up now here the pawn on a7. Daniel Darda also picks up now the pawn, but now look at this. After rook to d7, queen to a5, this pawn is rolling, and this pawn is just one move far away from a potential promotion. So again, the queen is always stuck to the protection of the potential promotion. In order to make some kind of a progress with the c pawn, you have to include, I think, somehow the king, and this is not possible. The bishop on c4 is controlling, the bishop on f1 is controlling the c4 square. We can maybe use also the rook in the game. There are always some threats, maybe to play rook to e7, rook to e8, check, and then promote the queen. So many tactical opportunities, I think, here for white. But as I said, if black plays the game correctly, this game should now end with a draw. So in the game, king to g7 was played by Daniel Darda. We have bishop to c4, attacking now the pawn on f7, which gives, of course, here black the chance to deliver a check. We have now king to h2. We have queen to e5, and now Magnus Carlsen plays the only winning chance he's again playing this 0.0, you know, this 0.0 end games that Magnus Carlsen many times won in his career. They're never really 0.0 because black has to play the most accurate moves. White, on the other hand, has to play, I think, the only logical move. So that's why Magnus played now the move G3. Of course, you play H takes G3. Magnus doesn't want to play, of course, here F takes G3 because then you risk some perpetual checks by the queen on the first and second rank. So that's why after move King to G2, here Daniel Darda played Queen to E4, and now after move King to G3, Queen to F4, King to G2. Now comes again a very important moment of this game. Here Daniel Darda has to make a decision. He was probably annoyed again by the possibility of the promotion, so that's why he played queen to e4, and after king to g1, here he played queen to b1, and after bishop to f1, he tried, of course, queen to a2, and again to catch up with the pawn. But actually, after move king to g2, actually what Daniel Darda should have played is an amazing drawish idea. He should have simply taken the pawn here on c4. This was the way to go, because after a potential promotion here of on a8, actually there is the beautiful perpetual check that black can always make. Look at this, we can play a couple of checks, but the problem is now white's king has never access to the fourth or maybe fifth rank. If you do this kind of stuff, then you get this idea, queen to a1, and you could lose the queen maybe on the a file. So you cannot really go towards this other side of the board. So actually here Daniel Darda missed maybe the chance for a beautiful perpetual draw with the move queen to c4. So he played queen to e4. As we said, he was annoyed by the possibility of the promotion of the a file. Now after move queen to a2, Magnus is now playing rook to c7. Here in the game we have now the move c5. Although this is also now huge blunder by Daniel Darda, but even some other chances are not helping out here black. Even if you play something like queen to a5, then white has always this kind of opportunity. We first step back, then if you try something like king to g6, then we again play a couple more moves with the rook. But when maybe the king steps back to g7, now we play a very important king to g2, and this is now the attacking idea. This is now the winning idea here for white. If, for instance, black would have played the move queen to a5, look at this, what happens. You play king to g6, but now we will route the bishop here to e2, and then afterwards to f3. When the bishop is on f3, then we have a completely winning game. So in my opinion, this is not working. So that's why you see after rook to c7, okay, here in the game Daniel Darda played the worst move, c5, because it liberates now the long diagonal for the light square bishop. This was the huge mistake, but as I said, even after queen to a5, this is not a good position for black anymore. So after move c5, we have now bishop to c4 by Magnus. He's trying to deflect the queen now from the defense on the a file. So in the game we have queen to a1, the check, king to g2, queen to a5, again attacking the rook. But now after rook to f7, king to g6, bishop to d5, in this position Daniel Darda resigns. So of course there is no defense against the promotion. You can maybe give up the queen, but again, this is game over for black. So incredible game. You see how really cool this idea was in the beginning by Magnus Carlsen, sacrificing the queen. Let's go back to this critical moment of the game. Queen to e1 was offered here. Rook to e8 happened. We have bishop to d6. Stunning idea by Magnus. He sacrificed now material, but after a couple more moves, you saw Daniel Darda made some mistakes. Magnus didn't punish them immediately, but it was so tough to play the game. Although you have the queen on the board, but Magnus Carlsen's attack was so brutal, so amazing. In my opinion, one of the best games from the title Tuesday for sure. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Really cool tactics we have seen in this game. If you want to see more beautiful attacks like this, you can also check out maybe my commented chess games played by computers, where we analyze more brilliant games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.